I want to welcome everybody to this picket in defense and for the liberation of Nestora Salgado. My name is Jordana. I am the local organizer of the Freedom Socialist Party, which is one of the organizations that has spearheaded this organizing. I thought you guys should know that today's protest is part of an international action to protest the wrongful imprisonment of Nestora Salgado. Protests are also being held in Los Angeles, New York, San Francisco, Seattle, Chicago. There was one held in Port Angeles on Saturday. Nupori, which is a socialist organization in Santo Domingo in the Dominican Republic, is also holding a protest. They will deliver a letter to the Mexican embassy there calling for the release of Nestora and 14 others who consider these folks who are wrongfully imprisoned to be political prisoners. Also, the PRT is leafleting the Mexican embassy in Mexico City calling for an end to the persecution of indigenous people in Guerrero, Mexico. We have some local endorsers for this particular, there's like a whole slew of endorsers for this campaign. The local endorsers include Radical Women, Portland Jobs with Justice, Portland Central America Solidarity Committee, Oregon Jericho Movement, a number of students from Portland Community College, as well as Portland State University, Bob Marshall, who's an organizer. Lots of us know if you're in the labor movement, you know who Bob Marshall is. He is a great troublemaker with UFCW, United Food and Commercial Workers, Local 555. Also, Glenn Kirkendall from UFCW, Local 555. Annalie Purdy, who's a rank and filer with the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers, Local 48. Chris Futz, who is a longshore worker with Local 5. Adam Mead, who's a rank and filer with the Industrial Workers of the World Portland branch. So that's just as some of the people who've endorsed this ticket locally. The plan is to walk up and down the sidewalk here in front of the Mexican Consulate. At around 11:30 or so, we'll have an open mic. So I know people feel very passionately about this injustice. So we want to give people a chance to say what you think and to share ideas of how to continue to mount the pressure on the Mexican government to release Nestora. There's also a poem that was written recently about Nestora and her bravery and her courage. We have a couple of statements. Around noonish, we'll deliver a letter to the consul at the Mexican consulate here that calls for her immediate release and the release of all the indigenous organizers for community policing that have been arrested. I think there's 15 total. And then we'll keep moving because it's chilly and have another open mic around 12:30 or so. Why don't we could start with people giving an introduction of who you are, why you're here, and then we can all grab a sign and start moving. Want to start over here? Introduction?
Oh, hey, I'm Paul, just general all-around malcontent.
There's a lot of material
Firm
there.
believer in solidarity, so that's what I'm doing.
Hi, I'm Erin, BSU student. I'm here in Solidarity. Half an eye.
And a leader in the peace team.
That's also in the Portland Peace Team.
I'm Chris, graduate student and concerned global citizen.
I'm going to say who I am. I'm Joe Anybody, and I'm filming for independent media. I help with PCAS a lot, and I'm here in solidarity with your struggle here.
Great, thank you.
I'm Glenn Kirkendall. I'm rank and file member in the United Food and Commercial Workers Union. I'm here in my union color because I believe it's a labor issue. It's the right thing to do. And also by wearing my union colors, I'm encouraging other rank and file members to also come out so we can push our leadership to come out in support of this.
Okay, I'm Claudia. I'm a student of anarchism and a very concerned citizen of this planet.
I'm Chaz with the Freedom Socialist Party, and I'm here to fight to free Nestora Salgado and also defend the right of communities to organize their own police in a grassroots effort.
I'm Jack Herbert. I attend the Cedar Hills United Church of Christ and formerly with the Anhedonia Peace Community and a friend of the 18th Avenue Peace House, and retired ASME, active with other local groups, and I've been active in PCAS since 1983, and this is just more of the same. So we have to stand up. And right now they're trying to pass the Trans-Pacific Partnership, which is an international treaty, and they talk about putting labor and human rights protections in it. Well, this is the test. Are you going to put it in here? Are you going to get people out of prison in Mexico? If it's not much of a treaty.
I'm Charles Coleman with the Portland Central America Solidarity Committee, and we are doing solidarity work with a whole broad range of countries in Latin America, and Mexico, of course, being one. We do campaigns around solidarity with Latin American countries. We choose our campaigns based on a democratic grassroots form of organization, and this particular type of rally that we're having here is the type of thing that PCAS supports because we're anti-colonialism, hegemony, capitalism, and that's what we believe is behind a lot of these incarcerations that are going on all throughout Latin America.
I'm going to go bring a letter to the Mexican Consulate. If you guys want to move around, because I know it's chilly, and I will be back in a moment.
Are you being welcomed in?
Yes.
Yeah, good. Okay.
Yes.
Thanks.
And Aaron's going to go with me. So
Okay, great.
Oh, only one person. All right. Well, if I'm not back in an hour, you know where you are.
Hey, man.
Be freezing out more than that.
Do you want to handle it?
Oh, that's okay.
Hey, I'll just have this one.
Very nice of you, though.
It's really nice to get out today.
Well, they let me out.
How did it go in there?
It went really well. He was very polite. He took our letter to the President of Mexico and wanted to know how long we were going to be here and were we expecting a lot of people and were we going to be peaceful, that sort of thing. And I told him that, of course, we were going to be peaceful. This was not about preventing anyone from going in and out of the consulate. We wanted to send a message to the Mexican government that we wanted Nestora and the 14 other political prisoners to be released. So he took the letter. He was very, he's actually moving. He's moving to a different consulate. So, but he is interested to know, what kind of aftermath happens in terms of the media, and if there's going to be future protests. And I said, well, the sooner you release Nestora, the sooner we'll move on to some other injustice. And so he just said that he would pass it on to the president, and we'll see how that goes. So, but it was good that all of you were out here. Obviously caught his attention. And the fact that there are solidarity actions that are happening all over the world, I think is really making an impact. It's really making an impact. So I know that for Nestora's conditions, just in leading up to this protest, they have been substituting her clean water with dirty water, and that has stopped. So that's a result of people making themselves known to the Mexican government that the world is watching about, how this woman is being treated and our demands for her release. So we just have to keep the pressure on. So I thought...
Do you know which consulate he's giving, so we can go follow up with him and remind him?
Trinidad.
Trinidad?
Yes. So, yeah, that's kind of it would be a lovely road trip, but kind of far. So, what was that?
You probably have friends in Trinidad.
I'm sure we do. These issues are international. So, I thought we would take... Of course, now I can't do it. I wore these earrings specifically because somebody gave them to me on International Women's Day. And so I wore them for Nestora. And everyone has read a little bit about who she is, right?
She organized local people to police the place and protect themselves from abuse.
Right. It is legal in Mexico for indigenous communities to arm themselves, to protect themselves. And so that is what she did. That's what she led. And as a result of defending the community from drug running and violence, including domestic violence,
and
corruption of the government, different officials. She was arrested on trumped up charges of kidnapping and thrown in federal prison. And kidnapping is typically a local crime, so you usually just go to the local jail. And so obviously, as a result of her organizing the community, they're trying to send a message to not just the indigenous, but everyone who stands up against corruption and abuse. So that's why what we're doing here today is so important. So hats off, or hats on, to stay warm.
Is this facility to be able to create a police force applicable to all the Latin American communities or states?
I don't know if it's to all the Latin communities. My understanding is that it is a right of indigenous communities.
Not the world then? Or?
Not in Mexico.
No, this is just, as far as I know, just in Mexico. I don't know about other countries. But the other thing that we learned is that as a result of this, now Mexico is talking about changing that law. So, of course. So, but I wanted to read to you a poem by Oso Savio called La Comandanta Nestora. And it's in English. Anyway, so you know. An authentic example of opposition to the violent failures of the current system. Her arrest a sign of government fear that the end of their reign is growing near. Quote, I know that nothing is worth my life, but in the face of terror, I'd rather die. Resisting and fighting than sitting back, not knowing when they're going to attack. 13, married to an abusive man, she soon took her children to another land, and slaved, cooked, cleaned, and served to give her girls what they deserved. Now back in her homeland, Nestora rose to be the leader of a group repelling those who extort, terrorize, trade in drugs, swarming the nation like a plague of bugs. She presents a danger like all who stand, forced to take justice into their own hands. The state is scared, but she is ours. Her spirit of resistance is in our hearts. Great poem. That was great. You can find this on poetry.com.
The people united will never be defeated. 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 The people united will never be defeated.
Now!
What do we want?
Free Nestora!
When do we want it?
Now!
What do we want?
Free Nestora!
When do we want it?
Now!
What do we want?
Free Nestora!
When do we want it?
Now!
What do we want?
Free Nestora!
When do we want it?
Now!
What do we want?
Free Nestora!
When do we want it?
Now!
What do we want?
Free Nestora!
When do we want it?
Now!
What do we want?
Free Nestora!
When do we want it?
Now!
When indigenous rights are under attack, what do we do? Stand up, fight back.
When indigenous rights are under attack, what do we do? Stand up, fight back. When indigenous rights are under attack, what do we do?
Stand up, fight back.
When indigenous rights are under attack, what do we do?
Stand up, fight back.
When indigenous rights are under attack, what do we do?
Stand up, fight back!
When indigenous rights are under attack, what do we do? Stand up, fight back.
Well, they let me out.
How did it go in there?
It went really well. He was very polite. He took our letter to the President of Mexico and wanted to know how long we were going to be here and were we expecting a lot of people and were we going to be peaceful, that sort of thing. And I told him that, of course, we were going to be peaceful. This was not about preventing anyone from going in and out of the consulate. We wanted to send a message to the Mexican government that we wanted Nestora and the 14 other political prisoners to be released. So he took the letter. He was very, he's actually moving. He's moving to a different consulate. So, but he is interested to know, what kind of aftermath happens in terms of the media, and if there's going to be future protests. And I said, well, the sooner you release Nestora, the sooner we'll move on to some other injustice. And so he just said that he would pass it on to the president, and we'll see how that goes. So, but it was good that all of you were out here. Obviously caught his attention. And the fact that there are solidarity actions that are happening all over the world, I think is really making an impact. It's really making an impact. So I know that for Nestora's conditions, just in leading up to this protest, they have been substituting her clean water with dirty water, and that has stopped. So that's a result of people making themselves known to the Mexican government that the world is watching about, how this woman is being treated and our demands for her release. So we just have to keep the pressure on. So I thought...
Do you know which consulate he's giving, so we can go follow up with him and remind him?
Trinidad.
Trinidad?
Yes. So, yeah, that's kind of it'd be a lovely road trip, but kind of far. So, what was that?
You probably have friends in Trinidad.
I'm sure we do. These issues are international.
What do we want?
Free Nestora!
When do we want it?
Right now!
What do we want?
Free Nestora!
When do we want it?
Now!
What do we want?
Free Nestora!
When do we want it?
Now!
What do we want?
Free Nestora!
When do we want it?
Now!
What do we want?
Free Nestora!
When do we want it?
Now!
What do we want?
Free Nestora!
When do we want it?
Now!
What do we want?
Free Nestora!
When do we want it?
Now!
What do we want?
Free Nestora!
When do we want it?
Now!
What do we want?
Free Nestora!
When do we want it?
Now!
What do we want?
Free Nestora!
When do we want it?
Now!
Let Nestora Salgado go. Hey, hey. Ho, ho. 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 Hey, hey. Ho, ho. Let Nestora Salgado go. 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 Nestora, aguanta, el pueblo se levanta. Nestora, aguanta, el pueblo se levanta. Nestora, aguanta, el pueblo se levanta.
Nestora,
El pueblo
aguanta.
se levanta. Nestora, aguanta. El pueblo 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 se levanta.
Know what your thoughts are about why we are all here today. So, I know since Charles is from Portland Central America Solidarity Committee, that is an organization that has done cross-border solidarity organizing for a long time. So, would you like to say a few words?
Sure, I'll say that.
I've been doing
talk
news.
right into
I went new page. Okay, you guys have fun.
All right, testing. So
See you around.
Yeah,
I
I'm
found
the
out where the
Portland
Freedom
Central
Social
America
Party-
Solidarity Committee, and as far as how long we've been around, it's been about 35 years now since
Yeah, if they called the
the
police, I would be here.
Contra War in Nicaragua. And we are a solidarity organization,
right, take care.
grassroots solidarity organizations with all
See you next
the
time.
countries throughout Latin America and the Caribbean. And we pretty much have a democratic way of deciding what our democratically we decide what our campaigns are going to be and what tactics we're going to use behind the campaigns. Right now we have a campaign, it's an anti-capitalist campaign against the Wells Fargo Bank for its investments in the private prison industry. We have a campaign of education to end the drug war in Latin America and throughout the Americas through a drug war workshop that we do in the popular education style. Which is really a great style to teach in. It basically asks the participants in the workshop to come up with their own way of training and their own agenda and how they want to learn. It's not a top-down hierarchical system. It's a democratic way of education. And so anyone who's interested in coming to meetings with the PCAS members, they're held every first and third Wednesday of the month at 2249 East Burnside at a house owned by the Friends. And join up and get in the struggle with us and do solidarity with Latin America. And the reason that I got into PCAS in the first place was I really think it's a great way to learn how the system's working and what it's doing, and to really get a grip on how to connect the dots between the people who are being incarcerated in Latin America and how they're being incarcerated here and how it's related, what colonialism is and how that works, what capitalism is and how it relates to colonialism and hegemony. So come on down to PCAS and give us, help us out. Thank you. And so, yeah, thanks a lot. Anyone next? Who would like to speak about their organization? Anybody want to say what they're doing here, supporting this action?
Well, I'm supporting this action because I support radical women and the causes they've embraced in the past. Also because this is a time of great disillusionment for me personally. None of the ways we've protested in the past seem to be working, and the cards are all stacked against us. So I guess, if anything, I'd say that, to put it in one word, I'm here out of desperation. We need to move now. Thank you. Blame.
Go ahead, Ann. Yes. Yeah, we're just doing like a little round table thing.
Words. Oh, that's what happens when you actually speak into it.
How easy is that?
Hey, everybody.
Woo!
I'm happy to be here. I'm excited to see so many people who care about such an important issue. The support of indigenous organizing is crucial because an injustice to one is an injustice to all. And at any time if we sanction or approve the prosecution or the detainment or the kidnapping of people engaged in organizing their communities for positive change, then we're really saying that we sanction and approve our government doing the same thing to us. And all people around the world deserve the opportunity to help their communities become better, or find justice or peace in their communities, in their nations, cross nations, between nations. And anytime any one of us gets detained for one of these activities, it's a complete injustice. And I can recognize an injustice when I see one. It's not rocket science. So I'm here today in complete solidarity, and I say free Nestora.
Woo!
So I guess I'll give it short. Did you want us to? Okay.
Welcome everybody to the Free Nestora picket. We've heard about a very brave woman who is a naturalized U.S. citizen, and lives in Washington, in Renton, Washington. She's also lives there with her family, and she's also a grandmother. But that doesn't stop her from going back to her hometown, Olinalá, and bringing supplies and helping the people there. But under Mexican law, indigenous people are able to defend themselves by community policing. And she organized a community police force and cleaned up a town that had the most murders of any town in Mexico. And of course, in 10 months, they made the people safer. And unfortunately, the authorities did not like it. She exposed the mayor to corruption, and so they decided to phony arrest her and put her in jail 1,000 miles or more from her home, where people, even her lawyer, couldn't talk to her for a while, and then denied her meds, and as we said, she's been given dirty water. But her courage is a shining light to people who think that they just can't fight against the powers that be, because she now stands up and is being supported by several pickets around the country today, right now, and even around the world. And so we can be inspired, and as well as supporting her
and not stop until she's free. And then that's just the beginning of a long, long battle. But every battle begins with one step. So thank you for being here, and free Nestora Salgado.
Okay, so this is a sort of a cobbled together statement from the Freedom Socialist Party. The capitalists and their governments try to pit the poor and the oppressed against each other using nationalism. Today's protest shows the power of internationalism, of standing with the indigenous nations and people of our hemisphere, and in solidarity across the hated wall at that border with Mexico, which is an insult and attack on the dignity of labor. And as lots of people have said earlier today, we are not alone here. It took only weeks to organize protests in Los Angeles, New York City, Portland, San Francisco, and Seattle. In a few more weeks, groups joined with this U.S.-based movement through the work of the Committee for International Revolutionary Regroupment. And today, there will be delegations at the Mexican consulates in Mexico City and in Santo Domingo, the capital of the Dominican Republic, delivering letters of protest to President Nieto. Aboriginal rights organizations in Australia are supporting Nestora's struggle. Workers and students in Costa Rica call for freedom for Nestora. There goes my hearing again. Yo Soy 132 is organizing a protest in Chicago. Thank you, Brian. United American Indians of New England are supporting Nestora. Nancy Shippentauer, Puyallup elder and daughter of Janet McLeod, who's a famed fishing rights fighter and woman warrior, is also supporting Nestora. Support for the demand to free Nestora and all the other political prisoners arising from the struggle in Guerrero continue to come in from far and wide.
Free all political prisoners.
This struggle is about the insatiable greed for gold and the right of the oppressed people to defend themselves by any means necessary from violence, exploitation, and the destruction of their natural resources and means of survival. All across our hemisphere, indigenous people are fighting to protect their land from the destruction of mining and fracking, their water from privatization. This is our fight here too in the Northwest. The native tribes are on the front lines against the coal trains, defending the environment and their traditional means of survival. This is our hemisphere, and the first people, led by women warriors like Nestora, are fighting for all of us. We stand together across borders for the dignity and right of all people to have what it takes to keep body and soul together, to have their humanity and civil rights respected, and enjoy this beautiful world without fear.
Thank you very much.